Logically, we shouldn't be surprised that the Ohio State-Michigan game was canceled, right? We all know what's happening around the country and college campuses, and Michigan has been hit as hard as any state, and also that college campus as well. This is just a reality. This is a great rivalry. We want it to be played. It's been one-sided as of late, the Buckeyes winning 8 in a row, 15 of 16. But that doesn't mean that it's not entertaining or culturally significant, probably more so this year than in a long time. And Michigan was a big underdog. I told you a couple of weeks ago that my Big Ten source said, hey, you're going to hear this, whether it's true or not, but it's out there, or at least starting to leak out there, that Michigan, because of COVID and the fact they don't want to get embarrassed by Ohio State, and they wouldn't want Big Ten or, Ohio State to play for the Big Ten championship. Just so you know, that is how this is being framed right now, and that the Michigan-Ohio State game was probably not going to be played. And as we found out, they're not going to play this game. And now the focus shifts to Ohio State. Is the Big Ten going to change their eligibility rules to let Ohio State play in the conference title game? Now, that means acknowledging that they were too rigid when all of this started. But if there was ever a time to admit your mistakes, it's this year. The ACC just had a change in their schedule, making sure Clemson and Notre Dame are going to face each other, and each gets 2 weeks to prepare for the ACC title game. Now, that doesn't mean this is the end of the road for Ohio State's title chances, because let's face it, these conference championship games, they're just a money grab to begin with. Remember when they first started, and I said, why are you doing this? And it was basically, this is just to make money for the conference. And then I thought, well, you do put some of your teams at risk of missing out on a bigger prize, because they're going to play for a conference title game, and if they lose, then that would preclude them from playing in a bigger bowl game at the time, or maybe playing for a national championship. So here you have Ohio State. Ohio State doesn't have to play in the Big Ten title game. I mean, think about it. They don't. They're in the top 4 right now. Now, they based that off of knowing that they weren't going to play the Michigan game. So one more game against Iowa, Wisconsin, like, who cares? And understand this, the college football Final Four, it's a TV show. That's what this is all about. I know we love to go, oh my gosh, that team has a chance to get into the Final Four. You know who gets in the Final Four? The marquee teams get into the Final Four because people show up to watch them. Notre Dame, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. Ohio State doesn't have to play another game. Now, the only way they get squeezed out is if Florida would beat Alabama, Florida and Alabama would still be in the Final Four. If Clemson beats Notre Dame, and it's close, Clemson and Notre Dame are probably staying in because their resumes are better. Then Ohio State would be on the outside looking in. It was suggested, my Big Ten source that I talked to this morning, I said, can Ohio State schedule anybody? Let me give you the information that he gave me. Michigan had no choice with a spike this week. They were already done numbers-wise. Schools are waiting to see what happens with Purdue and Minnesota. If they can't play, then Ohio State could possibly play another team in the Big Ten this week. When Barry Alvarez, he's in charge basically of the Big Ten, but former Wisconsin head coach, athletic director, he made the statement last week about revisiting the rules about how many games you have to qualify to play in the Big Ten title game. He did that while Wisconsin was still alive in the race. They lost to Indiana last weekend. So they're no longer in the race. Ohio State possibly plays on the 19th versus Wisconsin to get another game. There's this chance that maybe that they're able to play another game here. But if I'm Ohio State, I just leave it up to the Big Ten to say, are we worthy to represent this conference and go into the Final Four? You don't have to play another game, because you're already in the Final Four. I can understand if it's Texas A&M, because it was also pointed out to me, could Ohio State and Texas A&M play? And I checked with my source, and my source said, well, there's so many issues here. It sounds good in theory. It can't happen. And I said, buzzkill, as I text him back. He goes, well, first of all, the testing that you have in the SEC is different than the Big Ten. Where are you going to play the game, and who's going to televise it? Because A&M, CBS, Fox would have the Ohio State game. They would have had Ohio State and Michigan. I don't know how you could pull this off, but that has been put out there. There's also the possibility they waive the 6-game rule. But if I'm Ohio State, I don't care about the Big Ten title. I want to play for the national title. And if I know I can get in, and Alabama, I think, is a 15-point favorite against Florida. Assuming Alabama wins and wins comfortably, then it feels like Ohio State is, because Texas A&M is not going to be able to play this weekend. Can A&M get another game? And who can they play? This was a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, I think, where I said, if I'm A&M and I run into a scenario where I'm on the outside of the Final Four, I would call up BYU. Now, BYU just losing, but I don't know if there is a team that A&M could play that would help them leapfrog whoever else is going to be in there besides Ohio State. If you're Ohio State, I don't want to play A&M. I'm already in the Final Four. A&M needs to play me. Ohio State doesn't need to play Texas A&M. Maybe Ohio State. Ohio State is guaranteed of playing one more game. And, depending on how they perform in that game, does that matter in the Final Four? And from what I'm told, my source said no. You're already there. The Michigan game was canceled. Let's say you play Wisconsin. Okay, so what? Okay, you win 45-7. Okay. It comes down to if Alabama would lose to Florida and close game, and Clemson beats Notre Dame, their resumes are better than Ohio State's or A&M. We'll talk to Andy Staples. He covers college football for The Athletic, get his thoughts on all of this. This is moving. This is fluid because here we are on a Wednesday. Now, this isn't BYU and Coastal Carolina where they can go, hey, let's have a Tinder date and we'll meet you in Carolina. Okay. And they were able to do that. There's more moving parts. The bigger the program, the bigger the conference, there's more moving parts. Will you let Ohio State play a team they've already played before? Hey, let them play Nebraska, which would be kind of ironic. They started the season against one another. But I don't know if you're going to be able to shoehorn another game in there. And then you'll have the Big Ten, championship weekend where all the teams get another game. If your team is able to field a team. And that's a big if right now for some of these programs. Other than that, everything's great in college football. It's all about adaptability here. I understand it.